So today we'll be talking about ideas that will help make your design good. I can't promise to make you an expert designer, but if you keep these ideas in mind, you'll do better than less thoughtful designers. So I think we all know what I'm talking about when I say design. Sorry, I've got a really low pedestal here, so I'm gonna doing my best, but it is a loose term, so to be specific, we'll be covering design as the arrangement of elements or details in a product or work of art, but we'll also talk about design in relation to UX and visual design in software. That said, a lot of these ideas apply to design in general outside of software. First, it might help to distinguish between good design and bad design. For many people, good design often goes unnoticed because it just works and people move on. On the flip side, bad design often becomes a point of focus. Bad design screams out its inadequacies, making itself very noticeable. But that's only for those who are critical enough to note the difference. For many others, bad design makes the user feel like they're not smart enough to understand. Bad products make users feel stupid. Normal users blame themselves, not the bad design. That's obviously a problem because if your product makes a user feel bad, they won't want to use it, and they may even avoid it. You may have heard of a term called foolproof. A good design cannot be used wrong. Look and feel is a term that was used more often around the 2010s, not so much lately, but it captures the idea behind software design well. Design usually refers to how your software looks visually and how it feels to use. Broadly, it often focuses on layout, colors, graphics and illustrations, and maybe most important, any functionality included in your software experience, like buttons, loading indicators, or how easy or difficult it is to accomplish tasks. It might also refer to specific themes, like a Halloween or Christmas theme. If your design works well, it will look and feel good. So now that we're on the same page for what design is, let's go over some things that you can do to make your design good. When designing an experience, it helps to keep things simple and focused. Consider what's necessary for what you're trying to express. Cut out the rest. Unnecessary design can be distracting and confusing and may even lead to disengagement. Style and theme can be thought of as a unifying visual identity made up of colors, illustrations, and arrangement. Style can sometimes feel extra, but when done right, it adds context and atmosphere to a design. Using a unique and limited set of colors and graphics will make for a more memorable experience for your app or service. Feel free to cut in with any comments if you guys like, by the way. I'm afraid I feel like this talk is going pretty fast, so sorry about that. Users are trying to maximize benefit while minimizing cost and effort. If people can get what they want quicker and easier from you, they're more likely to prefer your solution over others. Minimize the effort required in your app by reducing clicks, wait time, and complexity. Now that we've covered some important things to keep in mind, let's take a look at how you might actually put a design together from the ground up. Here's my suggested workflow. Add the basic elements that you'll need. In this case, I've got a title, 2 text fields, and a button. Dress things up with an appropriate style, including any colors and graphics. So here I've just added some colors. And one thing to keep in mind is that you don't want your colors to clash or conflict with each other. It actually looks it blends in a little bit more on this screen than it does on my computer, but you want to look for colors that will match, will have good contrast so that they're readable. And yeah, generally you just want it to look good. After you get some basic style in there, you just tweak things until you reach something that feels right. Here you can see I've changed the font and the capitalization of the title. centered the text fields in the button and added a background to the button too, and using the same color in the title there for the button background. But you can see it's all the same elements, just kind of progresses over time. If you're not comfortable with design yet, the gap between steps 2 and 3 might feel large, but this is something that you'll get better at over time simply by trying new things and seeing what works. That's why I put it as tweaking things, because it takes several changes here and there until you finally land on something you like. This is a great time to experiment and get creative. Don't forget to take inspiration from other designs you like. Remember, there's not always a right answer. Design is subjective. Two designers might disagree completely, and both opinions may be valid. Design trends come and go. A few examples might be material versus flat design, hamburger menus, and maybe even the recent iOS update with liquid glass. As long as you're thoughtful and intentional about your design, you're likely to end up with something that is easier to defend and more likely to be supported by others. Next, I'd like to share my personal list of values that I keep in mind when designing anything. Make your designs as intuitive as possible. Users shouldn't need an instruction book to use your app or service. Remember that the audience is not dumb. Avoid unnecessary labels and instructions. With good enough design, users can figure out a lot on their own. Take opportunities to minimize your design without making it harder to use. Less clutter and visual noise will keep your users focused on what matters. And make sure important features are easy to find and use. Next, I'd like to share an example of some of my own design work made using the same values we just went over. For a long time, I felt like handling Bitcoin is too complicated for most people. Here's a popular Bitcoin wallet app by Coinbase. The current balance is displayed near the top, but you can spot the send and receive buttons. There's a lot of extra information here you might not care about, at least if you're just trying to hold Bitcoin and send and receive it. Here's what I think it should look like instead. You can see how much Bitcoin you have in your preferred currency, and if you want to send and receive Bitcoin, it couldn't be more obvious how to do that. This is just one screen, but I think it demonstrates the values we went over without much effort. You immediately see what matters. Things are kept simple as possible for a focused experience. And if you want to go digging for more options, there's a simple button for you to do so in the top right. But the most important features are front and center, displayed clearly without clutter. And that just involves sticking as closely to these values as possible. I really tried to boil this down, and so I think these are the main points to take away and apply to any design that you might be working on. So thanks for letting me speak today. That's all I've got. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect and chat. And I'll also be releasing a beta test of Easy Bitcoin soon. And you can scan this QR code for a form where if you just add your email, you can try it out. But yep, that's all I've got.